Hello there, and welcome to Night School. My name is Michael Vasquez, and I am the Game Master here at Night School RPG. For those of you who've been with us through the long, arduous task of getting our Twitch stream going, thank you so much. Here's a little recap of what happened. As you may have noticed that we stopped our production right around the middle of the summer, right around the time that COVID-19 got to be its worst in our state. We thought around this and began to think about putting together safety protocols so that we could still record in groups, meeting the numbers and following all guidelines that our city and state had recommended. However, with our jobs as educators, we had to make the rough and very difficult choice to stop recording live and to try doing online formats with just audio. With hope on the horizon, we have decided that it is now that time for us to go ahead and start our new year. So we are going to be adding in or dropping all of our old episodes that left us from the Battle of Kalakesh from episode 16 all the way to episode 22. Now, all these episodes are audio based, so they do not have video or maps. However, it is all of the rough audio of our campaign as we played. So stay tuned for a brief recap of each episode and where our characters were, are, and hopefully will be.
Dakar Malkoa is a elf druid who is learning about his own person, family, history, and ancestry, like all during this quest, and the powers that come with that. And I think the biggest driving thing for him, across all aspects of his life and with the group, is a sense of family. Having that group that he'll do anything for, and he hopes that they'll do anything for him. He had his little niche of goods that he made and traded with, and all these little sort of settlements and towns and people that he's never stayed in one spot for long besides Lakota, but he's popped around from town to town, basically just peddling his wares to make ends meet. Dakar's family dynamic has been shaken, where it's definitely not what he thought it was from like childhood, but for the group, it's been from the beginning ruckus, like a meeting Q and Kelness. They've definitely been ups and downs, but it is very much a for him at least a codependent relationship, because it's like he finds a certain amount of success and worth from helping them accomplish things and accomplishing things himself with their help.
Kelness Emrish. She is a brass dragonborn barbarian. She's a friend. She's willing to help her friends. Clan is important to her, whether it's clan that she was born into or clan that she created. I did not have lots of big thoughts when I first created Kelness of who I thought she would be. It was my first time playing in a big campaign. And so I knew some of her backstory, and I had, stats and stuff like that, but kind of waiting to see where the story would take her and go from there. Since we've been playing, what surprised me is how I've gotten Kelness to have the opportunity to be a little more well-rounded. And so it's kind of the story has lent itself that way. So it's been cool to see her attack, but also have a chance to see her heal as well. So I feel like it was at the Battle of Kalakesh, Kelnis kind of had the opportunity to run in on her own and was going at the orb. But I feel like there were a couple of other instances in that episode where I was more confident and she was more confident to try and do things on her own or make her own choices. But then it's also been just rolling with it. So I have great rolls all the time. No, I'm a terrible roller. So that kind of factors into, it's just part of Killness.
Q is an elven rogue who in the simplest terms is just on a journey of self-forgiveness, and she is just constantly struggling with coming to terms with her own decisions and forgiving herself for the mistakes that she makes. When I first wrote Q as a character, and I mean, I took the easy way out. I made a character that was essentially myself. So it was, and I do that on purpose, so it's easy to play. But I feel like I had some other ideas of what I wanted Q to be like. And it didn't come up episode 1. So I never brought it up again. For example, like I wanted Q to be really superstitious and things like that. And it never felt right or organic. So that's not where it went. I am surprised at how well she holds a grudge with the people that she calls her friends. Or not how well she holds a grudge, that's not the correct word, but how much of a grudge she can hold, to the point where she's not sabotaging them, but sabotaging herself. In the future, I'm hoping that Q lets down her guard a little bit more and reveals a few secrets.
So I'm super excited that we're going to get into this because there's been mystery of like, what have we been doing this whole time? And during our break, we did not stop playing. We continued going, and it turned into an audio podcast recording that we've been saving and editing down, and they're about to go live. So I thought it'd be nice for us to do a quick recap of what has happened for those of our viewers who just want to skip ahead and get right into the videos. So we're going to start with where we left off, which is actually going to be one of our kind of hidden mystery episodes that will not be released. It was right after our Battle of Kalakesh, a big moment for our trio as they finally outdid a massive undead army and saved an origin city that was really important to Kimura. But then that led them to their next part of their adventure, getting to Poten's Point, where they had to make their way through the Deadwood. And that was our episode 17, dealing with the Deadwoods. So let's start at the very beginning of the episode.
You're talking before that.
Where you were given a guide of Tiana from Kalakesh, who you discovered was actually a ranger of the Deadwoods who would travel and take people with her. And the one thing that she reminded you of is that the Deadwoods is a very different place and not to mess with the forest at all. Then when you went in, you did get separated because you came across a pack of strange creatures where you first encountered your woodwoads. And that's whenever Tiana actually got to use her magic trick, her rope trick, and tried to attempt to let you all hide. However, you were afraid of losing your unicorn Jamila because y'all couldn't lift the horse up the rope.
We hadn't tried yet.
But that's where y'all split up. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the woodwoads.
These are not, yeah, so I remember this episode and being so confused between the woodwoads and what came next, which were the Vegapygmies.
Yes!
They were both there.
They were both there, right?
That's the thing. There were two
They're
different kinds of creatures there.
I just remember they sounded so scary
They sounded
and
very
so menacing. We
And
had to save the unicorn.
They were messing with Jamila.
In retrospect, they weren't really doing anything wrong. They were just like sniffing Jamila. But
it sounded so much more menacing.
it did.
And that's Dakar's friend. So
Their
yeah.
college rating felt like a 15 with how crappy we all rolled on everything.
Well, I mean, it wasn't just you guys. It was also Tiana. I was rolling
yeah.
for her, and she couldn't do anything to help y'all out.
Mhm.
But that was the first instance of your party splitting up without having somebody petrified. That was the first time y'all full on decided, weren't forced, just decided to leave. And so Q, you took off on a little side adventure fleeing with Tiana, where you did a wonderful ceremony of blood sisterhood.
So this really made me happy because this was the first time that Q opened up to somebody with the sole intention of just building a relationship. Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna give this person information because that information is gonna do something for me. It was like, you told me a secret, I'm gonna tell you a secret. And I feel like that was really special for Q. And it was very, I don't know, it was a really big turning point for her.
And it backfired.
And then it did backfire.
So speaking of the backfire, because that led you northward to the Zaget, the southern regions of the Zaget, where you uncovered a different type of dragonborn, chromatic in color, but with tails and also extremely reddened eyes. And
Occluded
red eyes. And it didn't seem to go too well with there was a lot of bargaining, I remember.
And I feel like I need to preface this with saying the one condition we had on going through the Deadwood, we told Tiana, the one condition we had was we cannot go to the Zaget. We cannot go to the Zaget. So that's why Q felt extremely betrayed whenever we were supposed to be looking for the rest of the party, and then all of a sudden we showed up at the Zaget. And her words were, "I'm sorry, I had to." And so that was when she felt extremely betrayed. But then, I mean, Tiana got what was coming to her. That Dragonborn you mentioned just came and just took
snapped
yeah.
right out.
Yep.
Well, that's our biggest transition point in that episode. So what was supposed to be a meandering adventure through the Deadwoods turned into a pivotal moment, I believe, for Q. Like, that was a big Q episode. But the reverse of that is it was also one more opportunity for Dakar Malkoa to say that you had abandoned him.
Yep.
So how did that dynamic start to blossom?
Well, and I mean, this is kind of getting into like other episodes, but like I said, that Q felt how not only betrayed how betrayed she felt, but she felt how betrayed Dakar felt, and really internalized that and just could not let it go. So later on, I don't know if it was this episode or the next one, it was like a hard rule in the group. You cannot talk about getting left. You cannot talk about it. If you talk about it, I'm going to get mad. And because of that, it kept coming up. And Q, like, it just got bigger, like it snowballed, that emotion of feeling like she wasn't a good enough friend. She wasn't good enough to save her friend. She was eventually going to leave anyway. Like, it all snowballed into her brain and she just couldn't let it go.
Which I believe it was our next episode. So that transitions us to episode 18, Whispers at the Well.
Okay, my favorite part, I think, if I'm remembering this correctly, was, and this was me, not necessarily, two things, Kelnis. One was deciphering the quote-unquote sign language. That was this episode, right?
This was, yes.
Yes.
So that, it was the rejoining the two parties together.
Mm-hmm.
This was...
And even before that, it was Q's C-3PO moment with the Vegapygmies when...
Oh, I love that too!
Yeah, when she found a pack of them and couldn't really figure out what their ritual was of trying to heal one of them, and was desperately trying to help, but couldn't figure out how to help, and eventually one of them just died, and she just couldn't deal with that.
I thought that was the episode before, but I wrote that down. I loved that whole story. Like, the descriptive language, the how it all happened. It was beautiful.
Well, that was actually based. The thing that tied them together was a few episodes before we took our break. She had contracted a disease while she was visiting Lakota, and got attacked by the goat creatures, and that same disease that was on her hand was what was afflicting the Vegapigmies. And to see how quickly something could have died, did that ever like click to you at all?
Yes, in some ways, but also she was just so frustrated that she couldn't help that I don't think at the time, I don't think it clicked. I think later on, like right now, when you.
But eventually, through some use of Kelnis's horn and some tree climbing,
And waiting, thank you, and waiting.
the power of waiting.
Dakar felt like he's really good at climbing trees, and Kelly was really good at waiting.
You actually didn't reconnect yet, though, because this is where you did eventually get to the well of Zerafina, right on the southern tip of Lake Plastos. However, it also was the moment where you started hearing some confidently screaming and eerily reminiscent voices from the trees that kind of placated the forest around the well. So,
Kelnis found
that.
that super unnerving. But I was also impressed as it grew and grew and grew, like as you made it grow and grow and grow, how you were able to use our phrases in an applicable way for those creatures.
So Dakar, since you were a bird lover, when you first stumbled across these creatures, did you have any thoughts about what they were?
I mean, no. It was like everything with the deadwood. It looked familiar, but it was different in a way. Like where it's like it's something common, but in a completely abnormal, like distinct, like amazing way.
But that whole scene of the well, that I think is the big chunk of this episode. So how did it feel going and talking with Zerafina, or talking?
Well, we were talking with Zerafina. And I just want to say somehow that scene is both doesn't translate, and it's also so much more powerful with just the audio. Like, I don't know how, but like I don't think that having the video there would have helped people understand. I think taking away the video helps. It almost makes it like that much more like intense and difficult to understand. And I loved that interaction after the whole battle. Just kind of figuring out just kind of Zerafina's way of communicating was so much fun.
Well, I think it was so much fun, and it was also like a really cool chance for a whole different type of communication.
And I think just to kind of give a little bit of backstory for the people who are not going to listen, we encountered a character who was essentially mute, but didn't communicate with sign language, just kind of gestures and like eye contact, and it was really cool to navigate. I liked that a lot.
But then Dakar, you had a completely different experience with this, because you actually you went through the service that Zerafina was giving, and you actually drank from the well. Was that ever like I shouldn't do this? This is not going to end up well, or were you just like, let's just do it?
I don't think Dakar has a lot of second thoughts if someone in his group, his friends, aren't putting those second thoughts in his head. It's like this is what presented itself. It could resolve the situation. Let's go for it.
I mean, you got some benefits out of it.
Yeah.
Because you raised your wisdom modifier?
Yes, I think wisdom went up, and I raised the modifier, yeah. So it's like I can actually miss less with spells now.
But then sadly, y'all could not help Zerafina in the ways that she needed as she was tethered to that spot. But needing to depart further, you took your unicorn friend and began to travel along the Plastos River, heading closer and closer towards your goal of Potence Point. That, I mean, y'all been trying since day one to get to that location.
Well, some of us have.
I mean, well, some more than others. Some more than others. But that is going to bring us into our 19th episode, Flights Along the Plastos.
I only remember bits and pieces of this episode. And I don't know if it's because like it's running together with other episodes. But I really liked the mechanical dragons.
So this was actually one of our shorter episodes. Like when I was going through and timing stuff and doing the editing process, this was on the shorter end. We played and then we got out.
Do you remember why it was so short?
I do not. Oh no.
Why?
It's because this is the episode we decided we were going to take tequila shots for every crit, both good and bad.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, so that's why it was so short.
Well, it was so short, but it was also because the DM was rolling horribly that day. But
And the rest of us
were like 20, 20, 20, 20. And I remember I did the first two, and then Kat said no. Whenever the third one came out, she was like, we're not doing it anymore. So thank you for saving a life.
Saving a liver.
Oh, no. But no, because you mentioned the mechanical dragons, that's actually one of the starting off points is y'all, as you were traveling up the Plastos River, trying to find your routes to get north. The map that was given to you, since it was kind of dated, let's say not everything was showing up on the map. You had the mountains on the left, and then you had the river that you knew would go into the capital, but y'all were very terrified of going to the capital. Like every time it was mentioned about the capital, y'all were like, we're going around, we're going up the mountains. And y'all kept trying to go like west. Why the mountains? Like what?
Well, I think the general vibe in the campaign up until this point has been the capital or like north of the wall is not safe for casters and not safe for anybody who is pretty much not a human or an elf. Like honestly, like a full-blooded person. So like Q has always just assumed, oh, Kelnis is not safe, like in those kinds of places. So that was why Q was very adamant about going around and not wanting to go through cities.
Well, and I think like when we look at the map that we have, it's the capital right there between the Zaget and the other mountain range. And we knew the Zaget wasn't an option. The capital seemed dicey, so we were like, well, through the mountains we go, or next to the mountains.
We all continued moving towards the mountains. Like every 5 seconds, it's like, well, we're going towards the mountains. But you did have some stumbles along the way. So the first one, you did run across a dwarven stone forger that you decided, Dakar, just to take the armor with you. So
that'll come back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Things happen.
Oh, boy.
There can be no consequence from this.
That was a bad choice.
Well, actually, 2 of y'all took things off of him. So Dakar grabbed a nice set of armor, but Kelnis also found herself a little shiny stabby stab weapon.
I did.
At the expense of fighting off a few mechanical dragons.
Yeah,
right.
We also found a lot of money.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. We found a lot of money.
That y'all forgot about.
And scales.
So y'all forgot about it. Taking those new, like y'all haven't found a magical weapon in a long time, and this was a big one that I didn't intend for y'all to actually get. I didn't think y'all were gonna go that route and try to keep it. But man, Kelnis, why a dagger?
Because everybody says I do so well with daggers.
You do.
And technically, it's not totally mine to keep yet at this moment in time, like in episode 19.
Well, absolutely, because not only 3 game minutes later, y'all stumbled across a trio it was a trio of people that went under the title of the Dagonuni, which didn't come into play at all because y'all killed them so fast and just took their stuff.
They were following us.
That's true.
They were following us.
They were
We
very,
ran into them. We asked them for directions. They
were
pointed
nice.
us in our directions. We went on our merry way, and they decided to follow us. How dare they?
And I feel also like they were getting ready to attack us. They were very suspicious.
That was actually, yeah, Descartes, you were the one who used your magic wand to kind of locate who was around you, because you all kind of had a feeling you were being followed. So Smile Carver is the name of the weapon. When you saw that, because I went into, did it stab into Kelnis?
No, I think it was in Q, because Q had to.
Was it? There's just a moment I remember in the audio recording where you were like, I pull it out, and the moment it is described as a serrated weapon, I've never heard Kat's voice get so excited. It's a serrated blade.
It's a bread knife.
But no, y'all did end up getting much needed gold. I mean, tons of gold, some weaponry and some armor, and then made your way to the capital, where we had by far our best and our worst ever. Episode 20, shopping spree.
Oh dear.
But no, we're talking about it. So let's go ahead and unpack.
We went on holiday.
So, as you had mentioned before, this was your first time coming into the city itself, and y'all didn't know what to expect. So let's start off with that. Was the capital city at all what you thought it was going to be?
It was way easier to get in than I thought it would be.
Yeah. I thought we were going to need to like show papers or fight our way in or disguise ourselves or something.
And you just walked through?
We just walked right in.
We got a tour guide. It was just like...
Yeah.
Now, had it been a few weeks since we had played before?
Yes.
Okay. Because I just remember like being so excited because we always play on Friday, but like we hadn't played in a while, I guess.
I think Kat got 2 weeks notice we were shopping.
Yes, I did. And I needed 2 weeks notice because if you've watched any of our out of characters, I hate shopping. But because I had so much notice, it was actually quite enjoyable. Like having everything laid out was very helpful for me. And I kind of had an idea of what kinds of items I wanted. So I was able to be like, oh, okay, well, I want to go to this shop and kind of ask about the general things. She bought a missile glove, and she also there was a building that you could buy like party bags, surprise party bags, and she got something really cool there too. The magic balls of force.
Beads of force, yeah. Yeah, you really, when y'all went to the grab bag shop, the make and take, or not make and take.
Professional development.
I fully thought that after reading the description of what it is, that y'all would be like, oh, it's gonna really like drain our funds. But no, 3 of y'all went in, all 3 of y'all, and we're like, we're gonna see what we get. And yeah, it was like, I was really impressed with what y'all came away with, because not only did you get the beads of force, but Havda, what did you get?
Mind blank potion.
Or was it a scroll, right?
Hero's a scroll or potion.
But it's like an 8th level spell scroll. That's like ridiculous for you to have at this point in the game. I don't even know if you could handle casting that spell. But yeah, I was like, wow, y'all really lucked out on this, because y'all could have gotten crap. There was stuff in there that would have been worth like 12 silver, and y'all paid 800 gold on it.
Now that time has passed, can you give us an example of some of the really disappointing things we could have gotten?
Yeah, inside one of them, inside one of the bags was more bags. So imagine like the Mexican grandma doll where you pull out all the shopping bags, and that's what makes her dress get. Yeah, it's that. Store more bags. I mean, it was things like that, like mundane items based off what you rolled off of a D100, and a majority of
wow.
Yeah, a majority of them were fairly useless. like, you know, it'd be like a comb, paintbrush set. Like it's things that you could try to do something with it, but you'd have to be really, really adventurous. But y'all rolled incredibly well. And every time I looked down, I was like, oh, wow, you get that? Sure. But we're skipping a big detail, you see, because there's two individuals in the city that have to be named. So let's talk about Clarence and Sebastian.
Clarence was the little the penny cab owner, right? I don't remember what he was or anything like that though.
So Clarence was the docent that y'all met at the gate, who actually gave y'all information about the city and how it works. And also he runs the stables around the outer wall. So you had to pay for him to take care of Jamila. But there was a big trepidation about that. Y'all were so terrified.
I have that written in my notes. I was nervous the entire time. I did not trust the stable anywhere in the capital for Jamila. I was so certain that we were going to have some sort of encounter to be able to get Jamila back to us. Yeah, I was so sure.
Well, there was a hot moment in the audio recording where Dakar's like, no, pay for 2 people to stay in the stable and I'll stay there. And you're like, you can't, you're not an animal. He's like, no, I will turn into a horse so I can stay. Good time.
So yeah, Clarence was the one who gave us the what's it called? The tour guide. And then introduced us to Sebastian.
So Sebastian was actually our first guest player, and we've always talked about having guest players and having people come on. So we had a guest player join us, and he created a werebear. We don't even know what his class was because we never really got into an encounter that day. But a werebear who was kind of living within this underground lichen society, but because werebears have more control over their transformations, he was able to have a job and make money up on the surface level, and a bit abrasive, a bit sexist, a bit amphibious,
a lot of things.
Yeah, but also a bit hilarious the entire time.
Did you already have that society built in before?
Okay, this is a great question, because in the audio there's a moment where the player does ask, like, oh, well, am I alone? Am I the only lycanthrope in the city? And I was like, well, no, there wasn't in particular at this spot where y'all were. I wasn't expecting to have a lycanthrope be y'all's pedicab driver. But yes, there were they mentioned it in the episode of the Lycan King. There is an underground organization where lycanthropes do exist. So we'll find out more about that, because it is
shortly.
Cool.
If we go back to the capital.
Who knows? But y'all did go to a couple of shops in particular. One that cannot go without being mentioned. Let's go to Willow's Armory, where the greatest invention of our time was brought up by
sliced bread.
Was brought up by our Dragonborn companion, Kelnis Emrich. So Kelnis, tell us a little bit about the wonders of layaway.
Kelnis doesn't know what layaway is. I feel like I brought up the name, but Q really helped flesh it out, because I think there was mithril armor, and it was beautiful and wonderful and very expensive. And is that what we didn't have enough money for? Or we thought we didn't have enough money for?
This is the point where I said y'all forgot about how much money y'all had, because y'all were complaining about not having enough money, and y'all had about 8 times what you needed to pay for that one item.
Okay, but Kelnis is all about the bargain when she shops anyway. So I feel like Q was the one who was like, well, what if we give you some of the gold and then we come back and pay the rest?
Yeah.
And I just coined the term layaway in the game.
But at what point did you use your breath weapon to threaten?
I didn't use it.
But you threatened to use it.
I did threaten. Okay, but I don't remember it happening as quickly as it happened. I feel like we're talking to the shop owner and explaining what layaway is and getting ready to be able to get the other mithril shirt with layaway. And then I tried to bargain too hard and suggested, well, what if you give us this and we advertise the fact that you're the only shop with layaway? And then the shop owner said no. And I thought it was a really good deal. And I also felt like she was taking Kelnis's creative property, creative copyright,
I feel like,
artistic copyright.
or intellectual property, I think is what set Kelnis off.
Yeah.
It is. And because she wouldn't take my bargain, I strongly suggested to her that she should, or else I have the ability to burn down her shop with my breath weapon.
What I love is that we've talked with with Vic in the past. When we played Josh Katney, shopping's always been a wonderful moment. But inevitably, there's always one shopkeeper that hates the group. And I was so excited about how well y'all were doing with Willow. And then that whole thing happened, and I was like, and there it is. There she is, that one person who's going to hate the group.
Kelnis is the one that messed it up.
And it was our new player. Welcome, Vic. You're officially a D&D player. However, there was one other thing that happened on that episode. It was a really, really long episode, but y'all got a lot of stuff done. And that was the tragic experience at the Lace Lady Inn, where you decided to splurge since you had so much money and pay for your own little private floor area. And Sebastian, thinking that he knew the group, summoned in a special favor with the proprietor, and it ended up ending tragically, almost. Because in the next episode, y'all settled the dispute. So let's go ahead and jump into the next episode. Episode 21. I can't believe we made it to 21. Uprooted. So there was a boy who ended up trying to commit his own murder. Suicide is what they call it, isn't it?
You ended it.
Yeah, through the shock of the boy losing his life. Quickly, y'all turned on Sebastian.
We were ready.
I mean, yeah, y'all decapitated him, threw him down some stairs, and then threw his body in the street.
No.
We do it right.
The other person, the were-rat, was in the street, right?
Yeah, I don't think we threw Sebastian in the street. I think we talked about burning his body.
I think so too. But y'all did. Y'all lit a fire out, and quickly it smoked out, and y'all were like, "We've got to get out of here." So y'all took off. Decided.
I like the other version better. Decapitating Sebastian and throwing his body in the street.
That was the were-rat. Now that I think about it.
I know.
But y'all didn't manage, y'all didn't manage. Y'all decided you needed to flee, so y'all ran to the north, collected Jamila, and began fleeing the city. However, you were quickly stopped and met by a gruesome twosome, a rather large-looking, strange individual named Griff, who introduced you to the wonders of the boom boom stick.
Boomstick, that's in my notes. Except it auto corrected it to broomstick.
I mean, one of my favorite moments is so it was just he has rifles and pistols. So whenever he was shooting with a rifle and I described it, I realized the way I described it made it sound like a bazooka. And then like the next spell was Jakar, and he was like, I take my staff and I hold it just like so I just imagine this tiny little staff on the shoulder and then sending out, I think it was like a guiding bolt or something.
Yes, another Eric's guiding bolt that blew up somebody's house.
Well, like that's very Dakar, you know. Destruction of the town. But yeah, y'all did uncover some new weapons. And Kelnis discovered that she is being eyed by a group that's been trying to take y'all down for a while.
Yeah, but I feel like part of that, they were only eyeing me because there's a bounty out for all three of us.
However, you did deny break away from this group and finally made your way to Poten's Point, where y'all been trying for so long. Was it what you thought it was going to be?
Yes and no. I guess I was expecting it to be a larger, I guess, settlement, city, town, not just, the halfling, family, as it were.
Because Zefta had referred to it as a sanctuary, I was expecting more of like an animal sanctuary with unicorns and other creatures that were being rehabbed or protected.
See, and I took sanctuary as like pretty much like just one big building. Like, I don't know, like church-like, but not quite a church.
What y'all did not take into account was actually how much money Dakar was promised to take Jamila to the
Oh, yeah.
sanctuary. How was that reaction for your characters?
That's it?
Yeah, I think at the beginning of us, like our group meeting, it might have felt like it was worth it because we were all broke at the beginning. So it might have felt worth it then. But I think as time had gone on and we had accrued some kind of money,
And experience in terms of we didn't really know how long it could take to traverse the entire isle.
Yeah.
From the southernmost point to the northernmost point.
I think Q felt a little upset, is not the disappointed in the lack of communication.
Well, you never asked.
That's
but
true.
also, did you get the 75 gold coin? Okay.
Well, I mean, Potence Point did turn out to be more humble than what y'all probably thought it was going to be. However, you did get some insight into the world, into prophecy, into looking into what the Feywild actually is. So let's start with Dakar. Andre, what was it like to actually hear about the place you were from, your actual birthplace, and what you were? This is the first time you were actually told you were a Ladrin.
It was, for Dakar, it's helping dot a lot of I's and cross a lot of T's. Where it's like, he's been told different things by different people throughout his whole life. And this is just another person telling him something, but it's by far the most credible source. Since Zefta actually takes him there in some, form or fashion.
So when Zefta finally did take you, even though it was just through a vision through your mind, what's on Dakar's like frontal lobe when he's thinking about like what the Feywild actually is?
I mean, I feel like the biggest thing is it's a dream come true, like, because it's like a lot of his dreams do involve that. He just didn't know that, per se. Where it's like, instead of just thinking you're crazy dreaming about some fantasy world, it's like, oh, like this place might really exist, like, where, yes, I'm just in a vision again, and I could just be, on some other kind of drug that Zefta gave me, but, it's another person, saying this exists and knowing other information about it, imparting that information, her and her family. That's good for the character's growth.
What about the vision that came afterwards when you finally went back into a trance and got to see your tree and the two diverging paths that had now changed? Because where it was just one simple earthen path, you now had one that was burnt and crisp with fire imbued along the pathway.
Then it didn't make any sense. It makes more sense now. Like I said, put it together where, these dreams aren't dreams. These dreams are reality. It's a different reality. But it's like where, if I see something in my dream, there's some kind of possible consequence in the real world. And just having to figure that out is the issue. Since he's not the brightest when it comes to that sometimes.
He's getting there.
He's no race drum.
So then, while all this was going on outside, near the third chronophase tree that y'all found, inside.
Only a second for the car.
Second for the car, but third one total with the group. Inside, there was another vision that actually kind of broadened Q's story. Q getting a little insight into her sister, which Kelnis kind of latched onto right away. So for both of you, what's going on with that dynamic of Q's mysterious family connections?
I think Q is just, she's ready to let people in for that part because that's such a big part of her past and something that, like I mentioned earlier, she's still trying to cope with the consequences of some of her decisions and wants to make that right. So that's kind of part of her overarching story. And I think she's ready to let some of her friends in on that information.
I think because it's, well, I mean, Kelnis really viewed this time because there was, while Dakar was off learning with Zefta, there was a lot of downtime for Q and Kelnis. And so there were so many different things that Kelnis was like, "Ooh, I got to take advantage of." There's this seemingly not endless knowledge, but so much knowledge here, and we have so many questions about so many different things. How many answers can we get to what's going on? And then to hear that Q has a sister, it's like, oh, okay. One, this is exciting. Two, like, is this something else we need to put on our to-do list? This is my friend. This is part of the clan I've made. So by extension, more clan. But also just making sure that like Q's okay with all of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in that conversation, just having somebody tell Q that her sister doesn't blame her for whatever did happen was a really good step for her in being like, okay, I can move on in some ways and start to make things right. I can start taking steps to make things right.
As a group, though, y'all also were given information about how the three of you possibly play into a larger plot line within society. And the fate of the Five Feathers was first born as you came together as a group. So how did it feel knowing that there might be some kind of larger story arcs that we probably haven't even begun to touch? But through this prophecy, it was mentioned that 3 people would come together and return.
It definitely focuses the car, which is a hard thing to do.
Well, and I think for Q, it kind of gives her a little bit of a purpose in the group rather than just helping a person as a task comes up. Knowing that she is a part of that task gives her a reason to keep pushing forward.
Well, and I think it also, how do you put it really well, like focusing the group as a whole, though, because we do have an extensive to-do list, and almost any place we go, we get more information that we want to follow up on, whether it's a monster we need to go get its eyeballs for, or it's just a drop of information that pulls us back to somewhere we've been before. This was something that I think gave us kind of like an overarching purpose of, this is something we really need to keep in mind.
Well, and that's what I'll sort of expound on. It's like the focus of not only like a quest, but like the fact that they said, there's these 3 people, and it's like where the car has, felt abandoned by them, and has this different sense of like, no, like I can't leave them, they can't leave me, sort of thing. Where it's like that's sort of put into a grander scheme, but also knowing like, well, we need to make sure, this gets fine, so Kelnis is at top shape for this other task, and possibly finding Q's sister, Q's father, like stuff where it's like, we need to do these other things so that our characters will be, as focused as possible on the larger task.
Well, knowing that you are focused together in one mission, it was really exciting in this next episode to see how quickly the clarity of that prophecy fell apart. Because where it was only mentioned that 3 would return, it did not specify any characteristics about those 3. And when you finally made it to the Citadel of Vraska, 3 might not have returned. So let's jump into our final episode that we'll want to talk about today. That is episode 22, the Citadel of Vraska. So getting rid of Jamila. How excited was Kat? How excited was Q?
Am I blushing again?
So what happened? Like, y'all
somewhere.
take the unicorn to an altar since it was along the way going eastward, and you were met with an angelic transformation where you found out that the fey creature that you thought was fey this entire time actually was a celestial. So what was your first encounter with a celestial like?
I mean, I fairy fired his ass.
I just remember it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was male.
Beautiful.
Not fully clothed. I had a lot of fun sitting and waiting again.
Was there ever a moment where you thought, yeah, this is how I'm going to die? Or did you feel like we're going to be good no matter what?
I think I was just so confused. Like, I was more caught up in, is this Jamila? Did Jamila go through a portal and this guy came through the portal? Are we going to see him again some other time? Where did he go? That's where I was. But I also didn't have a lot to do in that encounter because I was told not to.
Power suggestion.
I track the same way. Yeah, I feel like when Kelnis just stopped participating and the thing's out of Q's reach, I'm like, oh, like, we're in trouble.
What was the moment when you first got hit, Dakar? Because I think your reaction was, you immediately were like, I'm using Balm of the Summer Court, I'm using 4 die, and like
all of them.
like this was the first time I think y'all have ever encountered a being that one thing was that powerful.
Yeah, I remember thinking this could be it, but I don't think this is it.
Well, luckily enough, it wasn't, because eventually y'all did make it to Vraska. You met Concern, your old tiefling friend from Kalakesh, who brought you to see your father. What was it like reuniting with Dakath? Did you expect him to be healed?
Yeah.
Or at least more answers.
Sometimes age is just age.
Yeah, bringing, like, him being brought to, like, the holiest of holies, you know, in our world, and nothing coming from it. It's like, you know, what level of evil is this, you know, or is it something that there is no cure for?
Well, something did come of it, because y'all ended up reuniting with Josh Lee, who detained you.
Her for the first time.
Who detained you and held you captive for interrogation, since someone was wearing a piece of armor that did not belong to them.
Yeah, so remember in, what was it, episode 19, when you took the...
Bad choice.
Yeah, that was the bad choice. These were the consequences for that.
You know what the other bad choice was? Don't unchain me. Don't unchain me. Don't do it. Don't unchain me. I don't want to be released.
This is again where communication is really important. And we need to talk about an entire 100% of a plan.
Not 40%.
Before we start.
I had 100% of 60% of a plan.
Yeah, it was like the other 40% was you.
Nope. That's not how it works.
No.
But through miscommunication, some ill-attempted lockpicking with a foot, I mean, there...
No, I thought that went well.
No, it didn't.
There were some good moments. I really thought at that point, I was like, oh, you are managing to get out. I didn't think it was personally the wisest thing. I was like, oh, we'll just wait and see what happens. But no, y'all wanted to get out so badly.
No, Kelnis wanted to wait.
Well, it's what you're best at, waiting.
It is.
We know Kelnis is okay with waiting. Q wants to keep moving.
And move you did. However, moving triggered our very first time trial of this campaign. So the time trial itself was trying to get downstairs without being detected in the 7th floor citadel. And the moment you were detected on the 4th floor, a signal went off and began to flood the stairwell and lock down the building. How was it? I'm so curious, Vic, how was it going against your first time trial?
So part of me was anxious, but I think that was more feeding off of Kat. Because generally in like
The mental illness was just spreading.
But you know what? My mental illness is, hey, push it away. We'll tackle that later, maybe. Let's put on a brave face and here we go. But I also like wasn't like, I knew the alarm had gone off. I knew we are being timed. I knew time was of the essence. We needed to hurry and get down. But I hadn't realized, like I hadn't made the connection of why the doors were closing. I realized it meant something, but I didn't realize it was for a flood.
So reaching the very bottom when you'll have to deal with the actual large flood, that's whenever all shit hit the fan. Q attempted to escape inward into a room. Kelnis assisted her, but then couldn't open the door, so she decided to try to communicate between the two. Dakar shape changed and immediately just booked it out there.
Left us.
That was the moment where everybody split, and it was like a 3-way split of how are y'all going to do this. At that point, I really thought there could be a TPK.
I did too. I was almost sure of it.
Kelnis is down and hurt, could be dead. Dakar is hiding in the canopy by himself, and
He was captured.
Q is captured. So that actually rounds out all of our episodes. I have to say, I am eternally grateful for y'all playing with me and allowing me to be a part of this team, and I am excited that we're going to continue on. And we hope that you're going to join us as well as you continue watching. We are currently still recording, and we have made our way back to a video format. We're not going to be putting them out live anymore, just as COVID circumstances are out and have caused us to really tweak how we do our day jobs and how we can meet through our safety guidelines. However, we do have some episodes that are already recorded that will be dropping starting on the first Friday of January. So all of our episodes that were audio recorded are going to be out on New Year's Day. All 6 of them are going live. And then on Friday of that first week, we will drop our first video episode, which will be episode 23. And then you can expect a new episode every Friday. So make sure you're staying tuned, enjoy, subscribe to our channel, let us know what you like and what we can do to make you happier, because we love this game and we love this family. And also, we're going to be growing our family as we add in some new guest players.
Reading in our silent nights for a bundle of joy.
What?
Well, no, growing our family. Like, that's how everybody, like...
Instinctually was like, who's pregnant?
Night school
It's
is
not
pregnant.
me.
Night School is pregnant, and we're bringing players to you. So
Bun in the oven.
until we can meet again in person, class dismissed.